Well, thank you very much, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. My name is Jim Summers. I'm Chief Marketing Officer with Relayware, and today's webinar is on the topic, as you can see here, hopefully, partner profitability threatened by poor supplier technology. And that is really, in a nutshell, essentially what we have found as a result of some recent research we had done. And that's what we're going to dive in today to give you some of these insights. It's the earlier part of the year. Maybe some of you are still in planning stages or finishing that up and are looking for some metrics and assumptions to prove or disprove some things that you're putting into your business plans on how to extend your channel into 2015 and beyond. So that's hopefully the value you'll get out of this presentation today. And if I can advance the slide here, that is myself there on the left, and I am joined today by Veronica Brunwyn. And Veronica, are you there?
I certainly am, Jim.
Great.
Hello
well,
there,
thank you for
and hello everybody.
So Veronica, who is joining me today, as you can see here, is our Chief Product Officer at Relayware and has been with Relayware since 2008. And essentially, Veronica is responsible for the Relayware product in its entirety, its architecture, the delivery of it, the management of it, and ultimately the vision for our product as we move forward and bring Relayware to our customers. She's also recently a Bronze Stevie Award winner for Woman in Business, and she recently won that at the latter part of last year, which we're all very excited about. And again, Veronica, thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Well, that's a pleasure, Jim. I'm thrilled to be a part of this and thrilled also to be able to share these research results with everybody who's on the call today. When I talk to our customers, so often the conversation is very much from the vendor perspective, and I think it's really exciting to be able to share the partner's perspective on the partnering process to everybody today.
Well, absolutely. As you look through the agenda items here, you can see that I'm going to first start with essentially why we did the survey and who did we survey and why we surveyed the partners. Then we're going to share with you what we learned, and then Veronica is going to help us understand how you can respond to this information and this data and what you need to do or think about differently as you put your plans together or finalize your plans. And then, of course, at the end, we'll open it up to some Q&A. And, of course, you can also start putting those in right now if you like to have any questions you want us to think about towards the end in the chat window in WebEx. So let's jump right into it. And just to level set, I know there's, looking at the list of attendees, there's a lot of you who know who we are, but if you don't know who Relayware is, essentially our mission in life is to help companies partner up, which admittedly is a strap line or a handle that essentially means we want to improve partner performance and help companies accelerate their revenue growth by doing so. That is our single focus and mission. It's a growth story here. Certainly there's cost benefits to be gleaned from better partnering management, but there's also an enormous growth story here, which we'll get into. The business was founded in 2007. We're privately held, a venture-backed business. We are all in on the cloud, meaning that our platform runs entirely in the cloud today. And as such, we have over 600,000 end users and partners running on our partner cloud today. And some of those partners are with vendors such as Lenovo, Sony, and the companies down at the bottom of the screen here. So without further ado, let's jump into why we embarked on this research. And just to start at the most fundamental level, in a perfect world, by definition, a partnership is when the relationship between the suppliers, the vendors, and their partners is one of equal benefit, whereas we're collaborating, communicating, and working together for mutual gain. And as I like to say, partnering has been around probably one day younger or less than selling. It's been around for quite a long time. But every day that goes by, there's different types of economic conditions and things happening out there that are affecting the dynamics between the vendors and their partners. And that's what we're essentially saying on this slide, is that traditionally, you know, it has been a relationship where historically the vendor has been taking information, whether it's content, collateral, data, leads, and handing and getting that information to all of their various partners, who are then taking it to their end customers. But more recently, that dynamic has really changed. And the cloud, I think, in a lot of ways, has really balanced the relationship between the vendors and the suppliers and created a little bit more equilibrium there. And I think one of the reasons is that partners are increasingly turning to delivering cloud-based software and services to fill a gap they could be feeling as their traditional margins with hardware is going down and down, and they're feeling this pressure. And they're responding by looking to become more holistic solution providers for the end customers, and not just delivering a single solution, but bringing multiple things together, whether they're products or services, into more of a solution bundle. And by doing that, the cloud has really changed that dynamic and created, in some sense, even a little competition with the vendors as well. So there is this balancing of the relationship between partners and vendors that is happening. And getting to really the thesis that we were trying to prove or disprove with our research is that we feel that partners, solution providers, are frustrated with how they communicate and collaborate with their suppliers and making decisions based on best-of-breed systems and support. So essentially what we've been hearing is that, and we'll get into this in a minute here, the partners are now dealing with a lot of different systems, a lot of different vendors, and they're choosing to go to the ones who are easiest to work with. And that was a hypothesis that we had to set out in the research. So the purpose of the research essentially is to identify process gaps in how those partners do business with their vendors and quantify its impact on loyalty, productivity, and performance. And we did that by going out and surveying roughly 150 partners to measure and assess their satisfaction with the vendors and their systems. So that was really the research purpose that we embarked on. And to do so, we worked with a company called Exevo, a research firm who helped us by doing one-to-one phone interviews. And looking at these pie charts here, you can get a feel for the types of respondents that we had. Greater than 50% are VP and above, and about 1 in 3 are in sales roles, and about 1 in 5 are in leadership positions as well. So a very nice mix of companies in our research. So before we jump into the hard findings of the research, let me give you a little bit more some context in the sense of the demographic profile of the partners. And as you can see here, half have revenue of less than 10 million, and 87%, close to 90%, have revenue of less than 100 million, which is traditionally the cutoff for SMB. So, you know, I think when you look at this here, you can see that a predominant, a big majority of folks are on the smaller side of the spectrum here on the size of company. And as such, one may infer that they rely heavily on their vendors and may, in a sense, be also resource constrained as well. So just again to give you a sense of the size of the companies that we researched. When we asked the question, what percent of your company's revenue is attributable to the business associated with your primary vendor, looking here, you can see for 20% of the respondents, the primary vendor represents half of the partner's revenue. And that actually goes to 40% of them. It represents over 25% or a quarter of their revenue. So one could perhaps infer from this that for a majority of the partners we surveyed, they are, again, heavily dependent on their primary vendor. So what do we mean by primary vendor? Well, when we ask them, who do you consider to be your primary vendor and most strategic vendor, partner, you can see some very familiar names at the top of the list. On top, you see here, we've got Cisco, then we have Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, and Lenovo, and those 4 companies representing exactly 50% for the primary vendor. So presumably, given the size of these companies, one would expect to have fairly mature and sophisticated partner programs in place, and also the processes and systems to support their partners as well. So the first real, I would say, meaningful question that we asked, getting to the heart of the research here, is how many vendors do you work with today, and how will this look in 2 years' time? And 44% work with greater than 15 vendors. It's just a staggering amount. And in 2 years, it will go up to 56% for those companies. So obviously, this is a lot of vendors to manage, and competing for mind share as the big ones, the big partner organizations are adding more and more vendors is certainly an issue, and the big are certainly getting bigger. But interestingly, at the bottom end here, you can see from 1 to 15 partners, it's actually going down from 55% to 44%. So the smaller ones, the smaller partners, are reducing the number of vendors. And one can't help but wonder, is this a sign of certain frustration and is becoming an issue of profitability as well in the sheer number of vendors that they're having to manage? So very interesting insights there. When we get back to the primary vendor, we ask the question, how many systems does your primary vendor provide for or require your employees to access to conduct business? And greater than 50% of partners report that their primary vendor requires them to access 4 or more systems. So adding on to that, how does the number of those systems applications today compare 2 years ago? And nearly half report that the number of systems has gone up over the past 2 years, with only 8% going down. So, I think these 2 slides maybe suggest that, correlating back to a previous point, is the smaller companies are really pulling their hair out trying to keep up. And when we go back to this slide here, you can see the average number of systems is 13 here. So there is a certain amount of frustration that they're feeling with the sheer number of systems. Also, looking at it through the lens of the primary vendor, we ask the question, does your primary vendor have the best systems and automation? And almost 3/4 here, almost 3/4, 71%, agreed with that statement. So again, it's clearly the primary vendors are doing something right. They're obviously more mature. They've been doing this for a while. So, is there something that can be gleaned and learned from what the primary vendors are doing relative to the broader audience? So we had a headline earlier on in the, the headline of the presentation is partner profitability is being threatened by poor supplier technology. So really the main question here, as you can see here when we ask, how significant is the negative impact of vendors in general, suboptimal systems and automation on your company's profitability? And here you can see that 60% of all partners, not just the primary ones, but partners report that suboptimal systems and automation is having an impact on the profitability. So remember our definition of a partnership earlier on? I mean, clearly this tells us that there is a perception among partners that there is an imbalance in the value and the benefit in the minds of these partners. And ultimately, when they suffer from a business perspective, it has a knock-on impact on the vendors as well. So we want to take it a step further, going beyond just the profitability question and say, all right, let's dig into this a little deeper. And one of the top line drivers to profitability is partner productivity. So we wanted to see where there could be a loss in productivity. And what we found here was very interesting. Poor personal contact, and not enough of it from vendors, was an issue, as well as poor training. So when you look at the previous slide, when we talk about systems as having an impact on profitability, there's sort of, when you think about it or look at it through the lens of productivity, there's some softer elements coming through. And poor interaction training is certainly having an impact on their productivity. And further down the list here, you see not enough incentive systems, which, one may think that, productivity can be driven in a lot of ways by really incentivizing folks. But really, this was further down the list. So if we go to the next triple click, right? So we talked about profitability, what's impacting that, what's impacting productivity. Now let's go into partner loyalty, right? And what are the most important factors that contribute to your company's loyalty to a particular vendor? We allow them to choose up to 5. And similarly to the previous slide, short response time and good technical support were top of the list. Things that you would think maybe traditionally or historically, vendor's product, the vendor's brand, all these other things you can see listed down below would have a big impact. But there seems to be a feeling amongst partners that they're feeling somewhat disconnected, maybe unsupported, and what they really need out there to stay loyal to a particular vendor is feeling connected and supported, so they feel like they can have the right answers and be successful, and ultimately you as a vendor can be successful as well. You can see a trend coming out here. So bringing it back to the vendor system evaluation, we wanted to again talk about the primary vendor's partner portal and or systems overall, and how would you rate the primary vendor's partner portal and or system. And almost 70% of partners responded that their primary vendor's portal or system is good to very good. So looking back again on the types of primary vendors at the top of the list, it was the Cisco's, the Microsofts, the HP's, Lenovo's. So it's really no surprise, probably for all of us, that these companies who have become real channel juggernauts out there and have really refined the processes and systems are doing a good job with this. So again, what can other companies do to emulate what those big companies are doing? And clearly looking at systems and automation are things that should be considered. And how well are the following vendor partner business processes supported in those vendor systems? Okay, so they said previously that they're pleased with them. 70% said that. Why are they pleased? What are the things that they're doing a really good job at? Well, interestingly, support, top of the list. Intelligence, business intelligence is also, reports and dashboards and things like that, as well as price quotes. Again, being able to do things when they're in front of the customer in the field to quote things and configure products and have access to the catalog is very important. And then training is number 4. And some of the things that we, would probably think would be in there and high on the list, like sales leads, co-op funds, deal registration, content, are further down the list, which is interesting. So coming to the next point here, before I hand it over to Veronica in a moment here, who's going to help explain what we can do to respond to this information. Let's try to summarize what we're seeing here. Well, what we see as far as some of the headlines in the channel partner reality in researching specifically with the partners is that in general, partners have agreements with lots of suppliers. And with those with a lot of suppliers, or vendors, I should say, it's only going to go up and up. But the smaller ones is going to go down and down. So there's an interesting dynamic that's happening there. nearly 2/3 of partners are reporting that suboptimal systems / automation is having an impact on their profitability. And the lack of contact, support, knowledge, systems and automation is leading to the greatest loss of partner productivity. And thirdly, here, partner loyalty is being driven mostly by short response times and good technical support. So when you compare that to what the primary vendors are doing and doing things well, again, what we heard was 70% of partners report their primary vendor's portal is good to very good. And 3/4 of partners surveyed believe that their primary vendor has the best systems in general overall. So just to clarify the point, some of you may wonder what's the difference between a portal and a system. A portal is a portal, right? It's a gateway into a lot of different information that is being made available to your partners. Systems overall may be a broader category of things like mobile or different types of maybe point solutions in addition to a portal. And primary vendors' partner systems do a particularly good job of providing partner support, business intelligence, and price quotes. So hopefully this gives you some interesting insights on what partners are saying and what they're faced with today, and how cloud is impacting that partner / supplier vendor relationship. And it ultimately comes down to being easy to do business with and giving them the tools to be successful so that ultimately the vendors can be successful. And as I hand it over to Veronica, our Chief Product Officer, she's going to talk through here how you should respond in this multi-pronged action plan that she's going to walk us through. So with that, Veronica, over to you.
Well, thank you, Jim. I think that was extremely interesting, and it's so rare to see quantitative research from a large number of partners on what they really value in the partner relationship systems that people put in place for them. And I think that I will certainly be applying that research into the conversations I have with our Relayware customers. So what can be done about this? What do people who aren't in the top 4 companies need to do to provide that sort of level of service and make themselves be the vendor of choice for the people in their partner community? Pretty much everybody today has a partner portal, but just think about yours for a moment. Is it a library? Is it a place where literature goes to be to gather dust and occasionally be downloaded? How often do your partners actually log into it? Once a month? Once every 6 months? And maybe that's the reason that people don't log into partner portals as much as you would like to, having put them together. Maybe it's because your partner portal doesn't meet that list of priorities that we saw in the vendor research. The priorities about support, the priorities about prompt access to information, the priorities about finding things easily and being able to get to everything quickly. So our action plan is very much about turning your mindset from a partner portal where you put up a whole load of content into making your partner systems be an extension of your own business, in simplifying them, making sure that they provide ease of use and make your company be the easiest one to do business with. So let's look at the particular points there. If we're simplifying our systems, the key thing that everybody wants is to put all the access to all the information, to all the things that they need to do to interact with you into one place. And that's something that happens on a regular basis with our Relayware customers. Our systems will support their sales processes, marketing processes, very particularly partner training processes, but also other communication processes, support, product requests, demonstration requests, any business process that you want to extend from your business out into the partner community, that can be automated and displayed to your partners using Relayware. I worked with one customer of ours in Canada, and they had 13 separate systems that their partners were required to log into from time to time in order to transact their business with them. That's now gone down to one. They log into Relayware, and the functionality of all those 13 systems is displayed to them in one place. And you know what? The amount of business that the partners using that particular portal are transacting with that company has gone up by nearly 50% since the consolidation of systems. It really does have a big impact on reducing the barriers to doing business with you. So simplification, putting it all in one place, one password, one URL to remember or to bookmark, and really making it easy so that they know that everything can be found in the one location, really has a genuine business impact. So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is actually make that business process easier. And what do we mean by being easy? Easy to do business with? Well, being easy to do business with can all be about various business policies, your pricing process, your flexibility in those areas. But again, it's also about communication. And so at Relayware, we make sure that the partnering systems we build with clients have lots of features that make the communication easy and the access easy, so that if you do need a particularly special price quote, they have that access, they have the ability to contact the right person immediately to find that out. So this is a typical portal that we can build for a customer. It's got a number of features that make that accessibility and support really easy. The first one in the top right is our activity stream. And this shows all the notifications that are relating to the relationship between the partner and yourself. And it displays, it's a familiar format. It's a bit like Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those social media tools where the latest information is there right in front of them. You can flag it as important. You can click through directly from the activity stream to the information. So here you can see that the deal has been approved. And if you just click the button, Jim, I think it'll zoom in. That's it. So here the partner gets an immediate notification that the deal has been approved. It's a little different from the photos on Facebook, but it's a familiar method of working, and it's a great way of letting them know. Now here we're seeing this on a web portal. Exactly the same thing would happen if they were on the road, on their iPad or other tablet or on their smartphone. So what's the next feature that we've got here? Well, the other thing is letting them know how they're doing. Incentivization is great, and everybody likes to put incentive programs together for their partners, but the incentive is only as good as knowing where you stand versus it. So we can put reports and dashlets like this one to show people how they're doing against their sales target. Log in, it's there straight away, you can see it. You can see it in the office, you can see it out on the road. And finally, communications tools. Within the Relayware portal, we encourage people to put discussion groups, to put support requests, and very simply, dynamic information. Here's your account manager, and there's their phone number, and they're as close as a one click and an email away. So these sorts of little things all add up to turning your relationship with your partner from a static one where you just provide them with the information and they have to go and search for the right thing, to a two-way collaborative relationship. I mentioned it about mobile, and there were some things in our research where we particularly drilled into partners' use of mobile. And Jim's going to talk about those now.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, interestingly, when we talk about easy to do business with, one often thinks about mobile, and we wanted to dig in this a little further to see really what the demand was for mobile solutions from partners. And when we asked them, compared to a vendor's partner portal / website, would your company utilize the vendor's partner systems more or less if they were available as a mobile app? And 40% of partners report that they would prefer a mobile app to just a mere web-based partner portal. And then we said, all right, well, what are the things that you want to be able to do in a mobile app? You know, it's not just about having one for the sake of having one, but what are the things that the mobile app would allow you to do that are most compelling, and choose 3 of those. And, you know, again, top of the list that we had seen from the previous slides was pricing and support are seen as the most compelling apps to provide to partners on mobile devices. And training down a little further, business intelligence, and you can see lead distribution. So lead distribution meaning that, you know, they're out in the field and they're getting a lead kind of given right to them on their handheld device. But I think what we're seeing here at the top of the list is people realizing that when they're in front of customers, maybe they're feeling slightly exposed because they're managing a lot of different solutions and they're compiling solution bundles, not just reselling a particular piece of product or hardware. So they need to be able to configure those, pull those together, and if they have questions because the training is kind of evaporated from their minds and they need a question about a particular product, let's say, being able to get that quickly and immediately is top of their list. So I thought that was pretty interesting data to share with you all. So here we have our mobile app, which Veronica, maybe you can kind of walk us through and explain what this does.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, and needless to say, Relayware comes with a mobile app that you can place in the app stores of the various vendors so that people can download those. We also have mobile-ready portals that you can use so that they're really, all your content, all your business processes can be extended out to your partners wherever they are. So if you've got a lead for a partner, it's on his phone. If your partner wants a price quote, it's on his phone. If your partner wants to register a deal and get extra discounts and ensure his exclusivity, he can do that wherever he is. He doesn't have to go back to the office to achieve that. And that, from our conversations and from our research, is something that partners really value. Another thing that partners really value is personalization and making sure that the information that's provided to them reflects their use of your businesses. There's no point in having a portal that has 90% of information that the partner doesn't want, because that will only make it difficult for him to find what he wants. And that's particularly true if you're dealing internationally. A lot of our customers have global partner networks operating and selling in multiple languages across the world. And of course, you will have different program rules across the world, as well as the language issue to be dealt with. So we make sure that in Relayware, it's really easy to display personalized content to everybody who logs into the system, whether that is personalized in terms of language, personalized in terms of pricing, personalized in terms of the programs that are available to them in their geo, or personalized in terms of their business role and their interests within your business. So that's a very important part of making sure that what you're doing for them is relevant to them and is making it easy for them to work with you. And then moving on, all these elements of communication, they all go into an overall partner program. And we haven't talked about many of the elements of the partner program. We haven't talked about incentive systems. We haven't talked about co-marketing tools. And we haven't talked about training in any great detail or partner events or any of the other things that you would expect of a PRM system. We've just talked about the way that you present these elements of your program and the way that you can extend your business processes out into your partner's ecosystem. And what impact does that have? Well, the impact is that, as I said in my example earlier, partners are more likely to go to your portal, to go to your program, and to give your company the business when they have business to transact. And so you're more likely to go up their list of partners and maybe even become that primary partner of choice that they work with the majority of the time. So clearly, we're providing the tools for them, but in terms of managing and optimizing and getting the value for your business out of that partner network, we know that it's important that you monitor their activity, that you have insight into the levels of engagement, into the levels of activity, and you can even correlate those levels of activity. I was talking to a customer last month who had been looking at his reports of his partners in Asia versus his partners in the United States for one particular product. And he'd identified that the Asian partners were selling in a different way and that it was twice as effective as partners in the rest of the world. So now he's been talking to those Asian partners and is rolling out a training program for partners elsewhere in the world to encourage them to use the same tools and techniques and to grow their business based on the experience in one geo. So by analyzing, by assessing what your partners are doing, by working with them, communicating and collaborating with them, using your partner ecosystem tools, such as a Relayware PRM system, you can achieve the goal that you have, which is obviously driving up partner revenues, and in the same time, you'll be obviously achieving the goal that they have of driving up their business revenues. So those are the action plan that we would like you to suggest to you based on our research of making your information personalized and easy for the partners to work with. I'm just going to hand back to Jim now to give a quick summary and one final learning point from our research before we ask for your questions.
Thank you, Veronica. That was great. And yes, I just want to make one final point before we do open it up to questions in a moment here. We asked one final question here. What would you as a partner prefer your vendor partners invested in more? And top of the list here, training, personal contact, interaction, and then systems and incentive programs. You know, and I think the point we're making here is that although better systems, we're not sitting here saying that you need to, or partners say you need to invest in more systems. It's not technology for technology's sake. It's thinking differently about the relationship between the supplier and the partners and what the partners are really looking for from their vendors in the sort of new dynamic that they're operating in today. And clearly, if they're managing as many various vendors as they are, and they're out there pulling these solutions together and having more face-to-face interaction with customers, I think what we're hearing from this research is that they need to be better equipped, better informed, and better connected, and be able to better collaborate with the vendors. And hey, by the way, systems may be able to do that and can enable that, certainly, and that's where us at Relayware come in to apply those systems to it. But I think the real headline here is how can you be easier to do business with and get closer to your partners to help them be more successful and have more profitable businesses, because that ultimately is going to benefit you as well. So with that, I'm going to open it up and hand it back to Karen for some questions that she has.
Super, Jim. Yeah, we do have a few questions coming through. I think the first one is a bit of a consolidation, but also an expansion question on what we've discussed. And somebody asked, how can vendors simplify things for their partners as we see increasing complexity due to partner numbers?
Yeah, well, I'll start with that one, Veronica, and hand it to you. But I think when we talk about simplification, you know, we look at the world through three different sort of vectors here at Relayware. It's about, first of all, simplifying, and then it's about standardizing, and then it's about automation. It's not automation and technology for technology's sake. You need to simplify first. And when you think about simplifying things for your partners, think in terms of having maybe one way of getting in, one password, rather than multiple passwords they have to remember. One destination or one location to go to that's intuitive, easy to use, and constantly up to date. One common database of all your partners rather than a lot of different databases or customer data in a lot of different, or partner data in a lot of different places. So consolidated views so that when you have this all consolidated, you have one view of their performance, their loyalty, their productivity, and ultimately their profitability and your profitability, because you want to see, hey, this partner is doing really well. I want to pour more water on that. And these partners over here are really struggling. I need help and kind of get engaged with them and help them out and support them. So really having this common view is critical, and thinking in terms of how you can simplify it through the unification of it. Anything you would add to that, Veronica?
Yes, I'd like to take a slightly different tack, Jim, actually. When I talk to a customer, when I go out and visit the customer, I always make a point of asking them, what do partners phone the partner account managers most about? And we all hope that the answer is going to be deals and sales opportunities and getting help to help them close deals and so forth. But usually there is some point of administration and there is some point within the process that is broken and that generates the vast majority of phone calls into the channel team. And if those elements of that are causing lots of, oh, I can't get this to work, oh, how do I do this, oh, where can I find this, those sorts of questions, if we can build automated right through to the partner's smartphone, automated processes, then we're really simplifying life for our partners. So find out why they phone you. That would be my piece of advice on that one.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Veronica. Thanks, Jim. Next one, can you define what business intelligence can offer in the partnering world, and can you give some examples?
Okay, that's a big question. Business intelligence clearly is a great way of working out what you could be doing better. And in the partnering world, and in what we're talking about here, in terms of competing against the other suppliers that your partners could be taking their business to, I like to set it up in terms of the metrics that we measure our partners against. And there are very obvious ones, and everyone's business plan includes sales targets and numbers of deals registered, etc. But I like to see business intelligence going beyond that and going towards these softer issues. How many of your partners have done training? How regularly are they being trained? Are the people who are taking the training actually actively out there selling the products they're being trained in? And matching those softer targets with the hard financial number targets to provide an overview of the whole partner relationship. Because once you have an overview picture of that whole partner relationship, you can see whether the relationship is going up and down, and you can take interventions to actually drive partner performance. And so business intelligence, yes, absolutely, sales numbers, pipelines, deal registration. But look beyond that. Look at the details of which products they're interested in. Look at the details of which trainings they're taking, and you'll get a big insight into how they view your business.
That's great. And finally, how does automation facilitate the softer but very valuable interactions with partners? So, for example, support, communication, or access to executives?
Yeah, how about I start with this one, Veronica? I think, you know, as I was, I think, driving home in the slides, is there is a need for support. And when partners are out interacting with the end customers, there's a feeling that they need to get the information they need immediately. And sometimes that information can't come directly from the vendor, and there's an opportunity for communities to be set up, you know, within partners communicating with other partners. And to be able to establish those communities and sort of these little groups of support and trust with each other can be very powerful. And leveraging tools such as Relayware to facilitate that interaction, we're hearing more and more is something that people are looking for and see tremendous untapped value in that. And I think, Veronica, you touched on that earlier in your slides around activity streams and so forth, correct?
Oh, no, absolutely, absolutely. And one thing that I've seen work very well is making your company experts available to the partner community. Every company has a subject knowledge expert. Many companies have many more than one. And I've seen one or two partner programs where they've utilized the automation of partnering and partnering automation systems to provide partners with insider access to their company experts through blogs, through forums, through Ask the Expert pages. And that has been a very effective way of making the partners feel special and making the partners feel that they have a close relationship with their supplier. So that's just another thought that I would add in answer to those questions.
Jim, given the time, I'll leave it for you to close now, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Karen, and thank you again, Veronica, for being my wing person here on this this webinar today. If you're looking for more information on this topic and you want to get deeper into the results, you can download the white paper on this topic right on the homepage of our website. So be sure, if you haven't done so already, to go there and see a deeper narrative and review of the findings. Also, if you have a desire to see these slides or review these slides, no problem sharing them with people. I can email those to you. If you email us at research@relayware.com, we'll get those slides right back to you, and you can have those for your reading pleasure, as they say. So with that, thank you all again for your time, and appreciate it. And by all means, reach out to us if you have any questions other than today's topics, and watch your mail for future webinars on other topics. Have a great day.